When my family came to visit me last summer, they wanted to go on a whale watching trip. We were hardly out of the marina when we spotted 2 orcas. Our naturalist identified them as brothers. It was awesome. They breached, they blew, they dove. I just felt this incredible joy watching them. And at the same time, I felt this angst. Why? Well, you all know that our iconic orcas are just critically endangered. The biggest threats they face are lack of food, chemical pollution, and noise pollution, all caused by us. But there is hope, and that hope is embodied in the Port Townsend Marine Science Center.
We're going to start out with the Eleanor Stops Environmental Stewardship Award. Eleanor, through her hard work, she was able to get Protection Island established as a wildlife refuge. And for those who know birds, it's incredibly important to our seabird. The habitat there is where 70% of the species of seabirds in this area nest. So without that protection, that would have been significantly less over time. So thanks to her, there's a place for seabirds here, hopefully forever on forward. And this is an especially, I think, pertinent award to be giving to this person, because this is someone who actually in her early career worked with Eleanor in helping to get that wildlife refuge established. So please help me to congratulate Lorna Smith.
I'm truly honored today to be the recipient of the Eleanor Stops Conservation Leadership Award. As Bea said, I had the privilege to know Eleanor well and to work alongside this amazing lady. In my decades of life and work alongside my wildlife biologist husband, Daryl Smith, my vocation and avocation as an ecologist and nature lover have led me to many interesting places and experiences, from tracking wolves in Canada to rescuing toucans, sloths, paraquets, and even tarantulas in Costa Rica. Yet when I look out the window of our home on Discovery Bay, and I see Protection Island front and center, I feel that ongoing sense of pride, wonder, and awe that securing its full protection happened at all. It almost didn't. In the fall of 1977, as an Audubon activist, I first saw Eleanor Stops' presentation on Protection Island and her work to save it from a 400-lot subdivision that had already been approved, many of the lots already sold. So following her presentation, I immediately stepped forward and offered my help. We soon became a pair to be reckoned with. At that point, Admiralty Audubon's Adopt a Seabird program, created by Eleanor, had already raised enough funds to purchase a number of lots, but not 400. We needed wider support, and we needed funding. We reached out to our respective congressmen, Don Bonker for Eleanor and Mike Lowry for me, with the enthusiastic help of Mike's birdwatching congressional assistant, Lynn Korn. We put together a legislative battle plan. A bill was soon drafted to create a national wildlife refuge on Protection Island. Eleanor and I took 2 trips to DC ourselves to meet with as many key legislators as possible and to get their support. Many of them already heard from their own state's Audubon members, so our work was made easier. Eleanor and I both testified before Congress twice. All right, I will admit it, the tufted puffins helped steal the show in DC. But the enduring message from the campaign I want to convey to you, which is as meaningful today as it was those many decades ago, both in creating Protection Island National Wildlife Refuge and many other successful campaigns I've been part of, such as stopping Northern Tier Pipeline and Oil Port in Port Angeles, and the recent banning of Atlantic salmon net pens in the Salish Sea. It takes a village, it takes a community, it takes each one of us. Protection Island became a national wildlife refuge on October 15, 1982, with full funding procured in 1983 under President Reagan. It remains one of the only U.S. Fish and Wildlife refuges created by direct congressional action, and as a result of the tidal wave of grassroots support started by Eleanor, taken up by me, and then many of you, to save that small island at the mouth of Discovery Bay. Thank you.
Obviously, our big, exciting news is the flagship building and our plans for the future. And after having met our keynote speaker, it was so clear to me that his knowledge and passion for architecture, and specifically for how to make architecture a tool that we can use to fight climate change, not only to, kind of mitigate our carbon footprint and reduce the spread of it, but to really fight back, which he's going to talk more about. He was the perfect person. So I hope that you enjoy this talk from Mark Johnson.
I was 13 years old. It's late at night, and I convinced my parents, it's okay, I can go swimming at night, right? It's okay. So I climb up to the spreaders, up maybe 20 feet above the deck, and jump into the water. And we'd done this all the time. I had no idea that it was going to be this explosion of blue light. Amazing. This, what we called phosphorescence, which is bioluminescence, and this dinoflagellate here, really woke something up in me. I didn't know what it was. I can't say that that was what made me me, but I was different after that. And that's what we need to think about when we think about architecture. How can we make things that when people visit them or understand them, they're different after that? Buildings are a huge amount of our carbon. They're a huge amount of our global energy use. So if we can target those, we can take on almost half of what's being produced, consumed, and generated in the world. So building materials and construction, like where the things come from, that's 10% of the carbon, we can do better. Marine Science Center has done better by buying an existing building. So we can do something with that and really take at least 50% of that carbon that's created by a new building off the table, and then we can continue from there. And then building operations, looking at how we can create buildings that are potentially producing more than they use. So when we think about how we make action for a functional, physical, social building, it's got to function, it's got to have a job in order to be architecture. Physically, it has to use less energy and create more than it needs. It has to be social, and to be social, it has to have a story. So we'll talk about how can a wastewater treatment plant become something that gives back. This is a project in North Vancouver. It was a very dirty site. It was a Canadian rail site that had long been storage for bunker oil. It was right next to the sulfur plant, and it was also next to a neighborhood. Starting with the idea of a resource, we thought of a luminous breathing organism, a facility that is visible and vocal and attractive. The proposal was a soccer pitch on the roof and a place that created exchange for information, or a perpetual motion machine that created more energy than the community needed. And a wastewater facility can do that. An example is the Amager, what they call the ski slope. This is a waste-to-energy plant in Copenhagen. It's built, and it's a ski slope. So in the winter, it has snow on it, and all year it produces energy from waste. So the second scenario was community, creating a place that built partnerships, so thinking of the idea of an ant colony, bringing everyone to the center, everyone back to help the system. An example is Granville Island, taking an industrial site, and over time, it grew to be this network and this web for art, education, and community gathering in North Vancouver. Building that conversation with the community to create a message of sustainability. So coming back to this idea of a new potential and where we can be, one of the most powerful effects of regenerative development is the experience of seeing the world anew. So seeing the new possibilities, the potential, and the possibilities that we can do together. So communicating with collaborators around these insights is the thing that can create transformative engagement and create that change that we need. Our opportunities now, and we are the new potential.
Our next speaker is our testimonial speaker, Stefanie Worwag, who is one of our most dedicated volunteers. And I also want to call out her husband, Mario, who is not going to be speaking, but was really instrumental in this project she's going to be talking about as well. So this is such an inspiring story to me personally, coming here and getting to be involved in this. We knew that this was such an awe-inspiring experience, and it is going to be that for everyone who visits Union Wharf once Gunther, our gray whale skeleton, is out there. So Stefanie, who is a veterinarian by training, is going to weave this story for us.
I never thought I would be standing here one day as a volunteer of the Marine Science Center talking about a gray whale. I'm not one of those people that knew since their childhood what you're going to be in your life, but my passion for animals always has been there. But marine mammals, I only treated dogs and cats, and anything else was exotics to me. So my husband Mario and I moved here in 2016, and we started volunteering in 2017 for the Marine Science Center. And I didn't grow up anywhere near water, so learning about marine mammals was really fascinating, and we both became volunteers for the Marine Mammal Stranding Network. So this is how the story with Gunther started. We responded to a call for a stranded dead gray whale at Olele Point. And the gray whale had been floating in the shipping lanes for a couple days and then washed ashore just a few miles from where we live. So then my husband had the glorious idea to move the carcass to our beach. We are really lucky to have some beachfront property that's fairly isolated. Cascadia Research towed it to our beach, and in conjunction with SR3, we performed a necropsy, which is an autopsy for people. And the main finding was that the whale was malnourished, undernourished. The blubber level was really thin. There was no food in the stomach or in intestines. The stomach contained some eelgrass that can be a sign of desperation feeding. So a little bit about gray whales. Once common throughout the northern hemisphere, now they are only pretty much found in the North Pacific Ocean. Gray whales grow up to 40 to 50 feet. They can weigh up to 90,000 pounds. And gray whales make one of the largest annual migrations of any mammals. They travel 10 to 14,000 miles round trip. So Mario and I quickly realized that it might be a really fascinating opportunity to get a permit for the bones and to consider to assemble the bones somehow. The initial thought was to keep it in our yard with the help of the Marine Science Center. So the necropsy was done beginning June, and by October, we had all the bones in our yard. So we were really thankful that the community boat project in Port Hadlock helped us with getting the skull into our yard. They actually fabricated a little carrying case, and then we put it onto a little raft and was then bringing it over to our county park, and then we put it on a pickup truck and brought it back into our yard. Right there, and that's the group. So the first winter, the bones just hung out in our garage, and then COVID hit. We then formed our own bubble, and we asked two of our friends, Les Schnick, who is an industrial designer, artist, and has worked with boats many, many years, and Rick Brendan, who is a welder and a previous owner of the Marine Co-op, if they would be interested in helping with our project. So we cleaned the bones, we painted them because it would be outside, and then we started with the skull in 2020 to 21, and then we got to the rib cage. We started last year and pretty much finished up this year. And Les and Rick, they're like perfectionists. They have done such an amazing job. So over time, knowing what an amazing skeleton this would be, we felt that this should be really shared with the entire community, and that the Marine Science Center would be the perfect new caretaker of Gunther. The new location, the flagship building, right, is looking right out onto Union Wharf, the new resting place for Gunther. And we hope that Gunther will help raise awareness about the health of the Salish Sea and motivate people to action. Port Townsend is really lucky to have such an important institution here that has so much to offer. It has never been more important to teach and inspire conservation. And it's so important that the Marine Science Center can continue its work.
We inspire people so that they actually can take action and make a difference. We want to make sure that this beautiful place we call home stays beautiful for everybody that lives here, whether on land or in the water. And now, Flagship Landing, downtown, we're going to be able to inspire so many more people. Fort Worden is a destination visit. Downtown, we'll be able to engage with anybody and everybody that walks down Water Street. Anybody who comes to visit by ferry, by car, by boat, if they want to see our great community. So we have exciting times ahead.